It's the Battle of the Birds this weekend in Iowa City. The Hawkeyes and the Redbirds of Illinois State doing battle inside Kinnick Stadium. I'll give you not only a key to victory, but also a key element of the game to watch for to make us feel confident about Iowa's chances next week against in-state rival Iowa State. But first, I want to remind everybody, if you're not doing so already, go over to Facebook and to Instagram. I've been plugging this here of late. We're trying to grow this following, and people have done a nice job of responding, but we need more help. Be sure to go over to Facebook, search From the Hawkeye of the Storm, or click the link in the description, and Instagram, at From the Hawkeye on Instagram. I've got both links at the top of the video description here on YouTube. Even if you're not real active on social media, give us a follow. Cool things in store for those that follow us on social media, but we have to hit that 1,000 mark first. Be sure to follow us Instagram and Facebook. So football is officially back for Iowa Hawkeye fans this Saturday, a morning contest against a Missouri Valley Conference foe. What do we know about Illinois State? Of course, I recorded a segment on a recent show with Coach Don Patterson. Don Patterson is the all-time winningest coach in Western Illinois history. He knows a little bit about the Redbirds, also knows a lot about Brock Spack. Actually recruited him back when Spack was a player. He ended up going to Purdue, was a really good linebacker, and Coach Patterson's got a lot of respect for the former linebacker and D coordinator. If you missed my segment with Coach Patterson, check it out. I'll throw it up here in the corner of the screen. But here are some things that I wanted to relay to everybody, and a couple of things to watch for in Saturday's game that I think will be key, not only to margin of victory. Hopefully we're talking just about margin of victory, not about trying to pull out a win, but also indicators as we head into a very busy and very important Cy-Hawk contest against the Cyclones. First of all, I listened to Brock Spack's media availability this week. He talked about quarterback, and certainly that's a position to follow if you're both teams, because Cade McNamara, Brendan Sullivan did battle during fall camp. But Illinois State's got a battle of its own. Zach Annexstad graduated from the program last year after putting up pretty good numbers. In fact, he threw for about 70% on the season. Very efficient. Now, they don't throw the ball downfield a ton. If you look at their yards per catch, yards per completion, plus their yards per attempt numbers, they're not great. They're very much about efficiency in the passing game, really efficiency in everything they do, which is right on key with what you'd expect from a guy like Brock Spack. Even though he's a defensive-oriented coach, he understands the importance of making the makeables. Actually, very much fits the principles of, say, an Iowa coach. But they graduated Annexstad, and now they've got a battle between a couple of young people, including one who played a little bit of high school football in Iowa. Jake Rubley, the Kansas State transfer, comes in there and has a shot to play. It sounds like they're going to play multiple quarterbacks. We'll see if they both play in game one. But Illinois State returns a lot from a team that lost 5 games last year, but 4 games by a total of 8 points. I've been talking to our followers here on the channel about this team for months and about the slim margin of loss throughout the season last year. Again, they finished 6-5, missed out on the playoffs. But as I said, good returning experience, especially at offensive line and at receiver. They've got 3 receivers who produced a lot last year, including 2 of their top 3. And they've got a first-team All-Missouri Valley Conference running back in Mason King. That guy is going to test Iowa's front 7, and we'll get a good idea of the depth up front. We've been talking about building that defensive line depth, and it sounds like Iowa's comfortable with 7, but we'll get an idea of that because Mason King will test them this weekend, and we'll get to see how Iowa balances the Willie linebacker cash scenario with Sebastian Castro and Kyler Fisher. That should be interesting to see against a solid rushing attack, again, led by a solid offensive line. They also return the Missouri Valley Conference Freshman of the Year in linebacker Ty Niekamp and first-team All-MVC linebacker Amir Abdullah. So they are really good at linebacker, just like Iowa is. This is the best conference in the FCS, hands down. This conference has won like 10 of the last 12 national championships or something crazy like that. And Brock Spack talked during his media availability about the development of that front 7. I think he feels pretty good about the linebacking group, but then about that defensive line, there are some question marks. and Iowa should be a lot better up front offensively, including with their rushing attack. It's interesting. I forgot George Barnett coached for Illinois State for a while. He was actually offensive line coach and served as offensive coordinator briefly back during 2013. Spack talked during his media availability about the window dressing that's added with a Tim Lester offense. He is familiar with Tim Lester's system, having faced him when Lester was at Western Michigan. He talked about eye discipline and how important that's going to be. We're going to continue to hear that theme throughout the season as Iowa runs more of that pre-snap motion, and if you want to call it window dressing. But Spack deferred back to Iowa's inside zone, outside zone identity that they have had for years, and he does not expect Iowa to go away from that. And based on everything we've seen and heard since Lester joined the program, they are going to keep the principles of Iowa's rushing attack and hopefully just perform a lot better. The last time these two teams played, actually the only time these two teams played, was back in 2015. Iowa won that game 31-14. It's interesting, Illinois State was coming off a really good season. They finished in the FCS National Championship game where they narrowly lost to North Dakota State. Iowa played them the next season. I did not remember that game came on the heels of their trip to the National Championship game. So that surprised me in researching Illinois State. And if you look at Illinois State's record, I know, we look at this and we say, Missouri Valley Conference. I've heard people just downplay the whole idea of Iowa. They shouldn't struggle with a Missouri Valley Conference team. And I guess there's some truth to that. But like North Dakota State and South Dakota State have dominated the FCS for a long time. And this conference, Illinois State's picked 6th in the conference, but yet they're in the top 20 in the preseason polls. You look at Brock Spack's head coaching record. He's been at Illinois State since 2009. He's had exactly 2 losing seasons. One of them was the 2021 season, and then the 2021 season. Both of those, I think affected by COVID. Everybody's rosters were affected. Not that you totally throw those out, but Illinois State had a 13-2 record in 2014, where they were national runners-up to North Dakota State, and then they finished at 10-3 in 2015. They were 10-5 in 19, and then COVID hit. And I think that kind of put them sideways a bit. They finished 6-5 in each of their last 2 seasons. So they are kind of a trendy pick in that conference. I did see one FCS media outlet that picked them 4th in the conference. That is really high when you talk about the powers at the top. North Dakota, a team that plays Iowa State, also from that conference. They are also a trendy preseason pick. As I mentioned, they're not going to throw the ball over the top a ton. They do run the ball really effectively. They averaged approximately 6 yards per carry in 2023. That is insane. Now, their turnover margin is just okay. They don't force a ton of turnovers, but they also don't turn the ball over a ton. They're solid, not elite in that category. Illinois State's very balanced. Like, they were actually better in total offense last year, even though Brock Spack's a defensive-minded coach. They were better in total offense last year than they were in total defense. And Spack sounds like maybe still some question marks about that defensive line. So, we keep hearing about Iowa's offensive line. It'll be a good early season indicator. If Iowa can dominate up front and average 4 to 5 yards per carry on the ground, game 1 against this defense, I will be happy. And I do think that will be the key to not only winning, but winning comfortably. If Iowa can establish and maintain a healthy rush average throughout this game, and certainly you want to protect Cade McNamara, and they should not have an issue doing that. If they have an issue doing that in game 1, that is potentially a sign of things to come. I've talked about waiting on this offense, especially the pass offense, through the first month of the season. That has nothing to do with the offensive line. The offensive line should be able to come out this first month of the season and dominate to some extent. I don't see why not. And so if we're seeing early hits to Cade McNamara or whoever's playing quarterback or negative rushing plays, that is a bad sign. So my overall key to the game, Iowa's offensive line play, specifically the push they get in the run game. I will give you my pick, my selection, my game score prediction for this one later this week. So be sure to stay tuned here to the channel. And then after the game, it's live post-game coverage with Coach Don Patterson, a 2-part special live Saturday with Kyle Spence and Coach Don Patterson, and then myself and Coach Patterson Sunday night. A full weekend of Hawkeye football and post-game coverage coming up right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.